The sweetest surprise. A billionaire's gift. Single dad, James Carter, was doing everything heckled to keep his daughter's world happy even if his own was falling apart. Ever since his wife passed away, every birthday for little Mia was a struggle. This year, Mia was turning 7, and all she wanted was a princess-themed cake with strawberries and glittery pink icing. James had smiled and promised her one, though deep down, he wasn't sure he could afford it. On the morning of her birthday, James walked into a local bakery, Sunrise Sweets, clutching a few crumpled bills and coins. The aroma of fresh pastries danced in the air as he nervously approached the counter, where a kind-looking woman with flour on her apron greeted him. "Hi there," she said, with a warm smile. "What can I do for you? I was wondering." James cleared his throat. "How much for a small cake? Nothing fancy, just something nice for my daughter's birthday. She loves strawberries." The woman looked at the money in his hand. She gently pushed it back toward him. "Why don't you tell me about your daughter?" James hesitated, then found himself telling her everything: how Mia had been so strong after losing her mom, how she still set a place at the table for her at dinner, how she smiled even when James worked 2 jobs and came home late, and how all she wanted today was a cake. The woman nodded silently. Then she disappeared into the back. 15 minutes later, she returned, carrying the most beautiful cake James had ever seen. Layers of pink frosting, fresh strawberries, shimmering edible glitter, and a tiny fondant crown. "I can't pay for this," James said, eyes wide. "You already have," she said gently, "with your story." He blinked. "Why would you do this?" She smiled and pulled off her apron. "My name's Evelyn Carrington. I own this bakery, and about 40 others across the country." James blinked again, confused. "I started baking with my mom in a tiny kitchen like this. Made my fortune in the food industry, but I never stopped baking. Sometimes, I come here just to remind myself of why I started. And today, your story reminded me." He was stunned. "You're a billionaire," she grinned. "Not just that. I'm also a sucker for little girls who love strawberry cakes." Before James could speak, she added, "I'd love to sponsor Mia's birthdays from now on. Cakes, party favors, anything she dreams of. And if you're ever ready to get back on your feet, I could use someone with your heart and dedication on my logistics team." Tears welled in James's eyes. "Thank you. I don't even know what to say." "Say happy birthday to your daughter," Evelyn smiled, "and tell her the cake came from a fairy godmother." And that's exactly what he did. That evening, Mia's eyes lit up at the cake and even more at the woman who visited later that day with balloons, gifts, and an open heart. That birthday was one Mia and James would never forget, and neither would Evelyn. Because sometimes, the richest moments come from the simplest acts of kindness. That night, after the birthday candles were blown out and Mia had gone to bed giggling and sugar high, James sat at the kitchen table staring at the untouched slice of cake in front of him. His hands were still shaking a little. Everything had happened so fast. First the rejection he feared, then the cake, then the gifts, then Evelyn. She had stayed for a bit, sat on the floor with Mia, helping her put stickers on a glittery diary she brought. James watched from a distance, wondering if he'd somehow stumbled into a dream. 2 weeks later, James didn't hear from Evelyn right away, though he thought about her constantly. Not just the kindness she'd shown, but her quiet confidence. The way she listened. The way she looked at Mia, not with pity, but admiration. Then came the call. "Mr. Carter, this is Evelyn. I wasn't sure if you'd consider it, but that offer I made still stands. I'd like to invite you to tour my company headquarters if you're open to a new start." James stared at the phone, then at Mia, coloring in the living room. A new start. He'd nearly forgotten what hope felt like. "I'll be there," he said. 1 month later, James stepped out of the elevator in downtown LA, stunned by the marble floors and glass-walled offices. A receptionist led him into a meeting room. Evelyn was already there, casual again, wearing jeans and a blazer, smiling like she was just another team member. "I meant it when I said I needed someone like you," she said. "We have dozens of bakeries and delivery centers now, but very few people who care about people the way you clearly do. Logistics, HR outreach. There are options." James hesitated. "I've never even been in a place like this." She smiled. "But you've managed 2 jobs, raised a daughter, and still had the grace to share what little you had with love. That's leadership." He took the job, started small, managing deliveries, then coordinating events, and he was good at it, really good. He found purpose in the hustle, and his coworkers respected him, not for what was on his resume, but for how he treated everyone. 6 months later, Maya now had a bedroom filled with books, a small golden retriever named Sprinkles, and a dad who was no longer constantly tired. She loved visiting the flagship bakery on weekends, where she'd decorate cookies beside the staff and, sometimes even Evelyn. And Evelyn, she had become something more. Dinners together turned into walks in the park, walks turned into long conversations, and conversations into late-night phone calls, where they laughed like old friends. But they both knew, especially Evelyn, that this wasn't about charity. It was about connection. James wasn't intimidated by her money. He admired her passion, her drive, her humility, and she admired him for the way he put Mia first, always. 1 year later, Mia's 8th birthday was held at the bakery, but this time, it was closed to the public. Twinkle lights hung from the ceiling. A real princess. Performers sang songs. Every detail was perfect, and at the center was a towering cake, with hand-painted strawberry vines and a sugar tiara on top. Mia squealed with joy, but her eyes sparkled most when she saw her dad holding hands with Evelyn. James knelt beside her and whispered, "What do you think? Cupcake?" Mia grinned. "Best birthday ever." Evelyn leaned in, and the start of something even better, because that day, in front of friends, frosting, and laughter, Evelyn surprised both of them again. She had a small envelope tucked under the cake plate. Inside was a deed to a cozy house with a backyard and garden already in James's name, a place to finally call home. Tears welled up in his eyes. "Evelyn, this is too much." She took his hand. "No, James, this is exactly right." They never rushed into anything, but they built a life, brick by brick, moment by moment. Mia thrived, James flourished, and Evelyn, she finally found the one thing money couldn't buy, a family that loved her, not for what she had, but for who she was. And every year on Mia's birthday, she'd blow out the candles and whisper the same wish. "I hope Daddy and Evelyn stay with me forever." And they did. The house Evelyn gifted James wasn't a mansion, but it was perfect sunny windows, a big tree in the yard, and a kitchen where Mia could bake beside her dad. James insisted on paying something, anything. Evelyn finally relented and called it a long-term lease for $1 a year, but he knew she just wanted him to feel proud. By now, James had risen to a regional management role, helping streamline delivery systems and employee care programs across all of Evelyn's bakeries. He wasn't just working, he was thriving. He even pitched his own idea, a Cake for All program that donated personalized birthday cakes to underprivileged children every week. Evelyn approved it instantly and made him the face of it. Mia became known in the company too. She'd occasionally appear in commercials, frosting on her nose, announcing everyone deserves cake. Her bubbly laugh made her a fan favorite on social media. But for James, the biggest change wasn't career or money, it was trust. Trust that he and Mia were no longer alone in the world. A quiet morning in spring, one Saturday, James and Evelyn sat on the porch, coffee mugs in hand, watching Mia build a fairy garden beneath the big oak tree. James glanced at Evelyn, the morning light catching the streaks of silver in her auburn hair. "You ever think," He began slowly. How crazy all of this is. She chuckled. All the time. A cake, a kid, and a crumpled $5 bill. That's what started this. He leaned back in his chair. You changed our lives. She turned to him, her voice softer. No, James, you changed mine. There was a long pause. Then James reached into his pocket and pulled out a small velvet box. His hands shook slightly. I wanted to wait for the right moment, but I realized it's not about the moment. It's about the life we're building. He opened the box. Inside was a simple silver ring, elegant and unflashy just like him. I know you don't need anything, Evelyn, but I need you. Mia needs you. Will you? She interrupted him with a kiss, tears in her eyes. Yes, she whispered. Yes, 1,000 times. 1 year later, the wedding, it wasn't some grand billionaire spectacle. It was held behind the original Sunrise Sweets bakery, under twinkling string lights, and surrounded by the people who had worked with Evelyn for years. Her real family. Mia walked down the aisle as the world's proudest flower girl. She carried a basket full of sugared rose petals and wore a crown made of tiny frosted strawberries. When Evelyn walked toward James, she didn't see a struggling single dad anymore. She saw her partner, her anchor, her forever. And James saw more than a billionaire. He saw the woman who'd knelt to tie his daughter's shoes, the woman who sat beside him through hard days, the one who never once treated him like charity but as her equal. It's Mia's 10th birthday.